In Cairo, a muezzin calls faithful Muslims to prayer. It's the same call that sounds 5 times a day, every day, in cities across the world. Nearly a quarter of the people on earth respond to it, bound together by the enduring spirit of Islam. God is most great, the muezzin calls. I testify there is no other God but God. I testify Muhammad is the messenger of God. Come and pray. Come and flourish. God is most great. There is no God but God.
America's Federal Bureau of Investigation has said it has discontinued a lecture that taught counterterrorism agents that mainstream Muslims were violent. Now, this move comes after leaked documents revealed controversial elements in the FBI's training manuals. According to those documents, mainstream American Muslims are likely to be terrorist sympathizers. They also say that the Prophet Muhammad was a cult leader. And the Islamic practice of giving charity is no more than a funding mechanism for combat. One presentation also states that the more devout a Muslim is, the more likely he is to be violent, and that Muslims are far more violent than Christians or Jews.
Danger Room has uncovered similar types of counterterrorism training on a national level. Ackerman acquired a course handbook used to train FBI counterterrorism officers at the FBI training ground in Quantico, Virginia. And pretty much everything about it should be sending off warning signals. Now, the course focuses solely on the threat of terror from Muslims. It encourages trainees to focus on a Muslim's religion as the sole factor in determining if they might be a terrorist. And what's worse, use of the word radical, that isn't even a focus in the handbook. Because according to these teachings, even mainstream Muslims are terrorist sympathizers. So basically, every Muslim likes terrorists, according to them. Now, the handbook also labels the Prophet Muhammad as a cult leader. And the course was taught by William Gawthorpe. This is a man who has said in the past that Muhammad's mindset is a source for terrorism, and he was also an important figure in the birther movement. So that should just give you a little bit of an idea of what we're working with here. Now, Gawthorpe advises that basically all Muslims, even mainstream American Muslims, are potential terrorists. He also explains that the more devout a Muslim is about their religion, the more dangerous they are to the U.S. Now, within the handbook, they have this really super scientific line graph that demonstrates Gawthorpe's ideology by showing that, see, Christians and Jews, the more devout they are, well, this is the non-violent, the less violent they are, as you can see. But if we look at Islam, Muslims, the more devout they become, they basically just stick along the violent line all the way through. So I think it's pretty safe to assume, with members of federal law enforcement being taught that there is no such thing as a moderate Muslim, that's going to affect the FBI's relationship with the Muslim community. We told you about several cases where FBI agents have gone to undercover and infiltrate mosques across the country and potentially entrap individuals in terror attack plots.
Anti-Muslim protesters hurl insults and abuse at people attending an Islamic charity fundraiser in Yorba Linda, California. The February 13th incident is seen by area Muslims as new and disturbing evidence of Islamophobia.
This commemoration of the 9/11 victims has been marred by a series of incidents in the United States. Near the site of the terror attacks in New York, a man set light to pages of the Quran. He didn't comment on his actions and was escorted away from the area by police. Later, though, he reportedly said he was protecting freedom of speech. Well, 2 pastors in the state of Tennessee are also said to have set light to copies of the Muslim holy book. This comes after a Florida clergyman threatened to burn the Quran on the 9/11 anniversary, but called off his plans after requests from officials.
fact, effective today, it is illegal to wear a burqa in France or a niqab like this. A Muslim veil that reveals only the eyes. The new law drew protest and confusion on the streets of Paris. 2 women stepping out in their niqabs and drawing a crowd were arrested for staging an unauthorized protest. The French government has called the veils, and I quote, a new form of enslavement, end quote, not acceptable on its soil.
A Muslim woman says her civil rights were violated when she was thrown in jail for wearing a headscarf while trying to get into a courthouse.
The woman says that the attack happened at the grocery store in back of me, brought about, she says, simply because of the headscarf she was wearing.
She claims she's the target of racial harassment, and she's only in the 6th grade. The Muslim student at Azalea Middle School in St. Petersburg says a classmate ripped off her headscarf and threatened to shoot her.
Deputies say last month someone opened fire on the Hashims because they're Muslim.
It's been almost 2 months since Haja Haidara was shot in the eye with a pellet gun in her own kitchen. The bullet came in through this window. She's still afraid to even be in the room. She says she's scared. Her 9-year-old daughter was approached at school by 4 kids claiming to have fired the shot.
They said that they did this to my mom, and they said that they're going to do it. Since they did it to my mom, they're going to do it to everybody else one by one.
A week after she was shot in June, Dembo Fofana and 3 other men were leaving their morning prayer at this mosque when they were beaten by a group of about 25 people.
How long did the attack last?
I don't know, because I was passed out and I woke up at hospital. So.
Police say Michael Derek Lobo and Juan Carlos Gonzalez Vaca confessed to vandalizing the Islamic School of Miami back in June. They say the 17-year-olds broke several windows with an iron rod and slashed tires on a van. According to the report, Gonzalez Vaca told police that, quote, all Muslims are terrorists.
Police say he hailed a cab at 24th and 2nd Avenue on Manhattan's East Side last night, and after driving a few blocks uptown and right, asked if the driver was a Muslim. When the driver responded that he was, cops say the man pulled out a knife and cut him in the throat, arm, and lip.
A student, says that his teacher used him as an example of a terrorist in his class. The child is an Arab Muslim and says he was intimidated and isolated from his classmates after the incident.
A graphic video that some say is anti-Islam was shown in a Southern Kentucky high school classroom. The video shows beheadings, assassinations, and other violent acts. It can be found on the internet, but as WINT's Phil Pendleton reports, a parent in Pulaski County says it never should have been shown in his daughter's high school.
The first thing you see when watching the video is the disclaimer.
It's nothing but hate against Muslims and the Muslim people.
That's how Bill Curry of Somerset took the 15-minute fitna video that he says his daughter watched on September 11th in an advanced placement class.
The premise was this is why 9/11 happened, because of the Muslims.
Much of the video is too graphic to show on television. It shows beheadings, children being injured, and dead bodies. Those violent acts are edited in between passages of the Quran. Curry says his daughter has not been the same since.
This man went to mosques claiming to be a convert to Islam.
And my cover was that I'm a French and Syrian individual who is seeking to embrace my Islamic roots.
But in truth, Craig Monte says he was working as an undercover spy for the FBI.
What they told me was that I would be trained as a Muslim to infiltrate mosques.
He's an ex-convict who claims over the course of many months, he secretly recorded conversations with hundreds of Muslims, including in more than 10 different mosques in the Los Angeles area.
And then he all of a sudden jumped into like, I can get us weapons to go do something in some building in LA or something like that.
Curdy and others worked out at this Irvine, California gym where Monte admitted recording conversations with Muslims as they exercised. These Arab Americans say his actions while working for the FBI amounted to entrapment and violated their constitutional rights.
He was telling people, like, I have a sheikh in Afghanistan that I know. I was hearing that, and I was hearing him saying stuff like, I have access to different things. That, I can help you out plan something, you need to plan something. Those were the types of things that I was hearing.
Troubled by Monte's words, this man, Ahmadullah Niazi, reported reported him to the FBI. Soon after that, the FBI arrested Niazi for a charge that boiled down to lying on his U.S. passport application. At Niazi's bail hearing, Monte's role as an FBI confidential informant was revealed. Monte claims he no longer works for them.
The FBI keeps claiming that they treat American Muslims as partners. We cannot be partners and suspects at the same time. You cannot call us partners and send informants or provocateurs into the mosque on a fishing expedition trying to entrap people.
We made several requests for an interview with the FBI field office here in Los Angeles, wanting to give them an opportunity to respond to these allegations. But they said they do not do interviews related to current investigations, and they don't comment about confidential informants. So they declined our request for an interview.
One of them is an FBI official named William Gothrop. He's an interesting figure. He used to be part of a Defense Department entity known as the Counterintelligence Field Activity, and that organization got into a lot of trouble back in the mid-2000s when it used its mandate to safeguard domestic military bases to keep a database on anti-war protesters, church groups, and other non-violent dissenters in the United States. Somehow he ended up at the FBI, and he's spoken in interviews in the past hitting on these similar themes. And in an interview he gave to a conspiracy theorist website called WorldNet Daily in 2006, he discussed his master plan for winning the war on terror, which was to shake Muslims away from their faith. That if they could institute, somehow, the United States that is, a catastrophic event in Islam that would cause people to no longer be Muslims, then the war on terrorism is won.
Certain that we stand at a defining hour. Halfway around the world, we are engaged in a great struggle in the skies, and on the seas and sands. What is at stake is more than one small country. It is a big idea, a new world order.